Mid-side is a technique where we take the stereo information, meaning the left channel's got different information than the right channel, and we re-encode it so that the mid channel has the information that's the same in both speakers, and the side channel has the information that's different. Let me just play for you an example. Here is a sawtooth waveform that has a stereo information on it. It's got a stereo reverb. We can hear that it is stereo. And if I solo the mid channel, we have only the signal that's the same between both speakers, and it appears directly in front of us. And so it's part of the reason we call it mid. The reason for this is we hear, if we hear something that is the same in the left ear as the right ear, same loudness, then our brain goes, oh, it's got to be right in front of us. If it's louder in the left ear than it is in the right ear, then we say, oh, it's got to be to the left of us. So the information will be different in that case. But if it's the same, it's going to sound like it's right in front of us. That's what the mid channel is, the information that is the same. This is also called mono, when the left channel has the same information as the right channel. Now, we also have the side signal. This is the information that is different. It makes up the stereo information. It tells us if things are to the left or to the right. And we can hear in this case, it's all reverb because I'm using a stereo reverb. Now, if I add a mono reverb, meaning the reverb added to the left channel is exactly the same as the reverb added to the right channel, they will be the same. And so it would actually be considered a mono signal. So if I take the width, that's how you control that in this particular one, down to 0, we have no side channel, even though we're playing clearly. This is showing us what's happening on track 1. So if I solo the mid though, so that's a stereo reverb for you. So we're going to bring the width up, and that just means that the left and right channels will receive different information. And after we've done it, so that's what mid is, and that's what side is, and it's simply the process of splitting the signal like this. But we don't hear like this, because again, we need to hear differences in the left and differences in the right to be able to form a stereo space. So if we leave it in mid side, it's going to sound really weird. For example, let me go ahead and take this off here for a second. What it's going to do is now the mid and side will not be turned back into left and right. And the mid signals on our left ear, the side signals on our right ear, and it sounds all messed up. So we have to encode it back so that we get back the way we hear. That way we could say, oh, it's different in the left channel than in the right channel. And did I bring the width up on that reverb? Oh, I have it soloed. That's why. It sounded mono. So we need to talk about 3 definitions of mono. Yeah, there are 3 of them. It's a source of confusion. And we need to talk about panning. Then we're going to talk about how to make mid-side. And I guess first I should also tell you why you'd want to use mid-side. Mid-side is useful for mixing. It's useful for a lot of things, but for me, mixing and sound design are sort of the big reasons I grab it. So if you have like a kick drum in your track that's like fighting with, I don't know, some string sounds, what you could do is you could take those string sounds, and they're probably stereo string sounds, and what you could do is you could split the string sounds into mid-side. The kick drum is going to be sitting right in the middle of your mix, so it's going to be a mono file, and meaning it's going to be right in the middle for now. And we could take the string sounds and take in the mid channel of the string. That's where it's going to fight with the kick the most, because that's where they both want to be. You could scoop out a piece of the strings to make room for the kick drum there, but you could beef that same area up on the strings, the same low end area up on the side channels, and you could get a way better sounding, cleaner mix. You have a much cleaner center, and you'll have some really great side information. You can actually get away with quite a bit on the side. You'd be surprised. So mid-side is an amazing tool. I'm always trying to get students to use it. My number one criticism for most mixes is way too much of your mix is mono when I think you didn't want it to be mono. Because there are things that definitely should be mono, but I hear a lot of stuff that's just mono, and I'm not sure why it was. All right, 3 definitions of mono. And we need to understand this because in order to make a mid and a side channel, we have to know how to get a mid and a side channel. And in order to do that, we have to work with mono channels. So indulge me for a second on mono. So mono means one. And right now, when we play a signal out of the left speaker and out of the right speaker, we've got a mono left and a mono right because they each receive one signal. However, that's the first definition of mono, a single signal going to a single source. We have another definition though, which is a single signal going to multiple sources. And so if the signal goes to the left and the exact same signal goes to the right, we also call that mono, even though it's technically a type of stereo because it's being played back twice. So there's our second definition of mono. So when someone says something's mono, they could mean it's a single source, or they could mean it's the exact same signal going to two individual sources. And then the third definition, this is the one that is like the kicker. So let's say you have your phone and you want to play a song back, and in your song, you panned the guitars all the way to the right. Well, your phone only has one speaker to play the sound. So what does it do? Does it just pick the left channel or the right channel? Because it's only got one speaker. Well, what it does is it adds the left and the right channel. That way it gets that guitar no matter what happens. If it picks the left channel, it would miss out on the guitar that's on the right channel, right? So what they do is they add the two channels together and then it just plays that. So it's one signal now. So that's the third definition of mono that you're going to run into. And unfortunately, some DAWs, when you pan, they also do this. So in some DAWs, if I pan left, pretend there are two channels coming in. You would expect the left channel to only be coming out because we panned it hard left. And if I pan hard right, only the right channel. That's kind of the expected behavior. But some DAWs, what they do is when you pan left, it does what your phone does. It actually adds the left and the right channels together. And that's a problem. I'm going to show you a solution to fix this for mid-side encoding. However, most DAWs that do this, they provide, at least all the ones I've checked, they provide a special plugin specifically for mid-side encoding. But if you want to set it up like they used to, like if you were handed a console and they said, okay, make a mid-side matrix for me, please, like on the hardware, I'm going to actually show you how to do that as well. I think it's extremely useful to know how to do. And it's not all that difficult. And if you can't set this up, you don't really understand what mid-side is doing to your signal. And that just doesn't sit well with me. You can understand what it's doing and just trust it. So there's that. Or you could understand like actually what it's doing. And it's not hard. You just need a good explanation. So I know this looks horrifying if you're not used to routing, but it's not that scary. I promise you'll see it's an easy thing to understand how to do. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how to set it up using a MUtility. That is a free plugin, totally free. However, it assumes your DAW's panning works like it's supposed to. If you have DAWs that have weird panning, or for example, Renoise does not support mono channels, so I have to use stereo, then I'm going to show you how to set it up using only stereo channels. And you'll still need MUtility for this, assuming that your DAW doesn't have the ability to put out two left mono channels. We'll get to that in a second. When we get to that, I know that sounds crazy. Well, we'll talk about it when we get there. All right, so we've seen mid-side. There's also one other thing I want to show you before we get into exactly what's going on here, and that is the vector scope. So the vector scope's a great tool for seeing signal correlation. The signal on the left channel gets played, and we see there's a left side. So if the signal is only on the left, it'll be on this line. And if it's only on the right, it'll be on this line. And then they add together over this like box. So if the two signals plus and plus add, they go into this middle box. And if they're exactly the same, they'll make a line. So if I actually solo the mid channel, this shows us that the signals are mono, that it's exactly the same. It's also very easy to hear. And then if they're different, they're going to cancel out. So I'll have a positive in the left channel and a negative in the right channel. And they're going to appear in these boxes over here. So it appears as a horizontal line when they are perfectly deconstructively interfering. So when they deconstructively interfere, they are reducing each other, or in other words, they are different. And when they're constructively interfering, they're going to appear here. When we put them together, we get a stereo image. That's just the sum of them over time. So when someone says, hey, check the mono compatibility, you could grab a vector scope and actually give it a quick look. And if you see a lot of signal on the sides like here, when you play that over your phone, when they add together, they're going to cancel each other out and you're going to not hear over your phone very great. But if there's a lot of stuff in the middle here, your phone will play that back just fine. So when someone says check the mono compatibility, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about what happens when you add the side information together and you only have mid information. What's going to happen? How's it going to sound? That's what they're referring to, actually. So that's the vector scope. We can use it as a visual check to see if things are working the way we want them to be. All right, now mid and side. So let's talk about how to set this up. So first, on the mid, I'm going to set this up again, but I want to walk you through the process of what we're thinking here. So the mid channel is a channel in which the signal is only the same. And so how do we get a signal that's only the same? So we're starting with a left channel and a right channel, right? Stuff's happening in the left, stuff's happening in the right. If the signal that's happening in the left is the same as what's happening in the right, they're going to add together, right? So if one's going to 1, let's say the left channel goes to 1 and the right channel goes to 1, they're going to add together and we're going to get 2. So, and if they go to -1 and the other one goes to -1, we're going to get -2. So they're going to add together. However, if they're different, if the left channel goes to 1 and the right channel goes to -1, they're going to subtract, we're going to get 0. So all we need to do to get a mid channel is to take the left channel and add it to the right channel. It's naturally just going to cancel out the stuff that's different. And that's how you get a mid channel. Pretty straightforward. If we want to get a side channel, all we have to do is say, okay, well, if the things are the same, so if one's going up to 1 and the other one's going up to 1, we just have to flip one of them. So if we flip it, they're going to cancel out and go to 0. And so we're going to have only the stuff that's different. So what we do is we do a polarity flip to one of the channels, and that causes them to cancel out where they're the same, and we're left with only the differences between the two channels. It's actually pretty interesting if you do this with an MP3 versus like a wave render too. You can hear the stuff that the MP3 is doing to the wave file. So that is the side information. So the left minus the right, where the mid is the left plus the right. So if you need to draw out some pictures to sort of see it for yourself, like draw the same waveform, draw a waveform for the left channel and the right channel, and just imagine what it would look like if you added them together, and then if you subtracted them, what they would look like. And then we need to just go back to left right, which we will talk about when we do the encoding here, because it's pretty straightforward when you think about it. So I'm going to show you how to set it up first using a free plugin, MUtility. Let's go ahead, let's do that. So I'm going to delete these and these. And again, I can't remember if I've said this yet, but I'm doing this in Renoise. This will work in any DAW, but I'm doing it in Renoise because a student asked about this in Renoise. So I'm just doing it in the same environment I was teaching it in for them. So this is for you, bud. So let's go ahead and go to, we need to first have a couple sends. And the reason for this is we need to send to the mid channel and to the side channel. So I'm going to create some sends by hitting Control T while send is selected. And I'm going to call this one mid. All caps, what the heck. Side. And then we need to take the mid and the side and convert it back to left right. So we're going to do our mid side processing here, and then we're going to go left right. We're going to go back to left right. So, okay, we've got this set up. What we need to do is we need to send our signal to the mid and to the side. So these are the sends. This is how you do a send in Renoise. If you're in Pro Tools or Studio One or whatever, create a couple sends. If you're in FL, you need to route it to a couple of new tracks, create some sends. If you're in FL, just use the Fruity Stereo Shaper. It's way easier. So anyways, we've got this set up, and where we're sending it to is determined by receiver. So we're going to send it to the mid. So this channel will go to the mid, and we're going to send it to the side. However, we want to keep the source after the first one. So the way sends work in Renoise is the send comes in, your signal comes in, it hits the send, and then it'll send it there. So it sends to the mid, but does it keep sending the signal afterwards? So right now it mutes it. So it no longer gets to the second send. So if I actually play this, it won't reach the side channel. We'll only see it in the mid channel, like you can see right here. So that's a bit of a problem. So we just use keep source to make sure that it gets to the next send. It keeps going in the chain. And so on here, after this, we want to mute it. And if we play it now, we'll actually see it in the side channel. We want to mute it after this, because if we keep it, it's going to come out down here too. And that means we're going to have an extra stereo copy running around, and that's not what we want at all. That'll make it a parallel process. We want it to be a serial process. So we're not going to use this channel to send audio out. However, I have left this check mark on, which makes it so that this volume still controls the volume of these sends. So you can see the gray audio indicates nothing's actually coming out of this channel. So this fader still controls the sends, even though it's not sending audio out itself. So just understand this about the send. So we're sending it to mid side. We let it go through the first send, get to the second send, and we stop it after the second send. And we're using that fader as our volume fader. So now on mid side, we need to set up the encoding. We're going to use the free plugin MUtility. And I'm going to load up one here, control click drag to copy it to other places. And let's just open up the first one. So a couple things. My first thing is do not touch this volume left and volume right, because what this ends up doing is it's going to screw up the process. So don't touch these. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. On the coder section, we're going to enable it and expand it to just see it. And right now it's got a couple settings in here. We're going to just use the left right to mono stereo. So this is using one of our definitions of mono and stereo. It's using, what it's saying is the left and the right channel will be encoded so that the left channel becomes the left plus the right, which is the mono, it's the mid signal. And the right channel will be the left minus the right. So it's going to be the stereo signal. And so if we pan left and pan right, we'll get mono and stereo. So if I actually solo this, we have left right. We have mid side. So if I pan left, we just have the mid, and pan right, we just have the side. So this requires your DAW to be able to like pan correctly. This method won't, again. So if it doesn't do it correctly, we'll talk about that over here. So all we need to do is set up this second one. We're just going to turn on the encoder, and we've set it up the same way. So we're going to go ahead and pan this hard right. And then we're going to send both of these to the left-right bus. And on this one, we want to enable it, and we want to change the encoding to take mono and stereo and to go back to left-right. So this will put it back to left-right. Now you may have noticed, let me turn this off here for a second, or I guess it doesn't matter yet, that when I play it here, it's playing only over the left channel because I panned it left. And you can see that it's on the left because it's on the left 45-degree line. And on the right, same thing, even though it's side. We'll see the sums and differences only after we've decoded it. So this is encoded right now. When we decode it, we'll go back to the sum of the left and the right and the difference of the left and the right. And that's kind of a nuance of mid-side, is it's taking two discrete channels, a left and a right channel, and encoding those two discrete channels into two new discrete channels. It's still left, but the left is now mono and the right is now stereo. So kind of a nifty thing. If you understand that, I feel like you're getting a pretty good grip on what's going on here. So let's go ahead and decode it. Let's create some more sends. So a send on this one, and I'm going to just copy it over here, control click drag. And we want to mute since we only have one send afterwards. And I'm going to go to the left right bus and also to, or left right send, I guess. We're going to send them both to the left right channel. And on here, we've already set it up to go back to left right. And we're good to go. If we unsolo everything correctly. So now if we solo the side, it's back in left right. So we can see the summations of the two channels. And or not in this case, the decoding of the two channels, and the mid. And that's how you set it up. So if we wanted to like add an EQ or something to our track here, we'll just add an EQ to the side channel. And we want to put it after the encoding. So it's being encoded, and then we're going to send it out with our new change. We could boost the high end a bunch and totally change the side information, but the mid information is still exactly the same. So I could maybe make the sides way duller. And you hear on the sides, it feels like it's been sucked in a little bit because of what I've done here. So pretty interesting abilities here that we have. So you go ahead, get crazy, do mixing. I feel like this is probably the most common way to set up mid-side just because it's quite a bit faster. So let's talk about now if we want to set this thing up for ourselves. So I'm going to delete these. Okay, so now we're confronted with the problem that your DAW may not have correct panning, and also it may not support mono channels. And even if it does, if it has wrong panning, it still doesn't matter. So what we need to do is we know we need to get left channels so that we can add the left and the right together. So we need only lefts and only rights. And we also need, for the side channel, a left minus a right. And then we need to go back. So we need 6 channels. We need two for left right. And then we need a mid side. And then we need a new left and a new right. So the process signal. So that's called encoding. And then we have decoding. So I'm going to create a bunch of new sends. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to have mono left. And what we're going to do to get around this whole adding thing. So right, if we go like this, some DAWs will do left plus right. What we're going to do is we're just going to make it so that there are 2 left channels. So it's just left plus left, which is just more left. It doesn't add anything from the right. That's how we're going to get around it. We're going to create 2 left channels. So pretty sneaky here. And I'm going to show you how to do it with a native plugin to Renoise, or if you don't have this, MUtility can actually do this as well. So we're going to choose mono left, mono right, and then we're going to choose mid, and then side. And then we're going to choose new left and new right. Okay. So, and I'm going to leave this here because I'm actually going to do it different just to show you that it doesn't matter which one you flip. So let's go ahead and go to mono left, mono right. We need to create some sends. I'm going to delete these so we're starting from scratch. Let's put some sends down, send them to those tracks. So we're going to send it first, the whole dang stereo mix. We're going to send it to mono left and mono right. So now they're coming out here. Make sure you keep source on the first one, mute source on the second one. And they're coming out as expected. So right now they're full mono mixes. I mean, they're full stereo mixes. They have all the stereo information on both. We want to make it so that this is a left channel. There are 2 left channels and 2 right channels. I'm going to start with the MUtility version just because it'll work across all the DAWs and because it's a free plugin. And then I'm going to cover the one with Stereo X because that's native to Renoise, and I would encourage using the native stuff. So I'm going to load up an MUtility on the mono left and mono right. And in order to convert it so that they're both left channels, just open it up. Go down to the coder. You can ignore everything else. And we want to convert left and right to just left. So now it'll just be 2 copies of the left. And the vector scope shows stereo because I'm sending it out of the right now as well. So if I just solo this, we only have left channel. Now it looks like it's stereo. That's because it still is, like, technically, I guess, because it's coming left channel out of the left and left channel out of the right. So it will do that conversion for us. And in here, we're just simply going to set it up so that it is only right. So we're going to choose left, right to only right. And now it's been set up. So if we solo this one, that's only the right channel. So we've got 2 right channels and 2 left channels. That's the takeaway. That's what we've set up here. All right, so now that we've set that up, we need to send them to mid side. We want to encode it. And so what we want to do is we want to send the left channel to the mid and the right channel to the mid because left plus right is the same thing. And then we want to send the left channel to the side and a flipped right channel to the side because left minus right is the side information. We already sort of discussed this. And also let me show you how to set it up using the stereo expander. So I'm going to get rid of these, but that's what you would do if you were using some other DAW. We're going to use stereo expander now. I'm going to go ahead and load this up on both of them. And in stereo expander, just bring the expand down to mono on both of them and set the right channel to be only right channels and the left channel to be only left channels. And now you are all set up. Exact same thing. It's just using native stuff now. Okay, so we need to send to the mid. Let's set up the mid channel first. So I'm going to grab some sends. I'm going to send the left channel. Oh, let me grab the send. And I'm going to send the right channel. And right now we're just doing the mid. So I'm going to leave it on mute source. And I'm going to go to mid. And then I'm going to send the right channel to the mid. So this is the equivalent of saying left plus right, go here. And if we solo this, we're getting a mono signal that is just the mid stuff. Now, if we want to send to the side, we need to send the left channel in a flipped copy to the side channel. So in mono left, we're going to go to send. Whoops. We're going to put another one down, and this one's going to go to the side channel. We don't need to do anything to it because we're not flipping this one. And, oh, this should be going to the mid still. Don't know why that changed. And that's it. Now, don't forget to keep source since now we have two sends. We want it to go through to the second send. And so this is going to go to the mid. And we want to send a flipped version to the mid here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a plugin called Gainer, which has the ability to flip the polarity. And I want to flip both of them. So flip left, flip right. I don't know if MUtility has a polarity flip. I've actually never checked. MUtility. Thank you. Can't spell. But let's go ahead and check really quick. If it doesn't, this is the one thing. Oh yeah, you can invert left, invert right. So you would just turn these on and you would load one of these up. You could also, if you want to use your channel strip, you'd have to route it to another send and then route it in. It'd be more complicated. So I encourage just using the MUtility. In this case, I'm going to use Gainer since it's native, but you would simply flip those invert channels, and you want to invert them both because in reality, they're both right channels. We've converted it so that it's right. And so that is the mid. And we want to send the inverted version of the right to the side channel, right? We're going to flip it. So my order here is a bit screwy. I want to bring this over here because I want to send to the mid channel. Then I want to flip it, and that flipped version is going to be sent to the side channel. So I'm going to grab another send, and just drag and drop that on there. And on here, I'm going to send this to the side channel. So now they flipped right in reality is what's happening here. Is being sent to the side. So this is now left minus right, and this is now left plus right. Also, do not forget to change it to keep source on the first send if you're working in Renoise. If we solo the side now, we only have side information. And now we can tell that just by hearing it. But if we look at it, it still looks like it's mono. That's because we've not decoded. And in this encoding scheme that we're using, we have two left channels and two right channels because of the limitations of the DAW. So anyways, that's how we set that up. Now, in order to decode it, it is pretty straightforward. What we want to do is we want to take the mid, and if we think about it, the left channel should just be the left plus the side information for the left. And the right channel should be the right plus the side information for the right. And how do we get that? Well, we simply send the mid. That's the same in both channels, right? That's what we did. We just sent it here. So we just need to send the mid to the left and to the right because it's the same. That's how it's defined. So to go back to left, right, we're going to grab, oh, we already got them good to go. We're going to grab some sends. We want to send it to new left and to new, whoops, we want both these sends on the mid. We're going to send to new left and to new right. Don't forget to keep source on the first thing. So we've sent our mid out, and now the left and right are getting the mid information. So to decode the side channel, all we have to do is unflip what we did with the mono right channel here. So on the side channel, we're going to add two sends. And you might be thinking, why do we need to flip it? Can't we just send it to the left and the right? I mean, it's the mid is the same in the left and the right. But the side, recall, this is a mono channel. So if we just send it to the left and the right, there's going to be no difference between the left and the right because we're sending the same information to the left and the right. It's important that we undo the flip that we did here. So since we flipped the right channel, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, don't forget to keep source. I'm going to send to left. I'm going to mute source on the second one and send to right, the new right. But before I send out back to right, I'm going to do another flip. So I'm going to use gainer, or you could use the MUtility. And I'm just going to flip left, right. And now when I send it out, the right channel will get the flipped version and we'll have our difference again. They will perfectly deconstruct and we'll have our difference between the two channels once more. And just to sort of show you, if I go ahead and bypass this step and we solo the side channel, it appears still as a mono source that sums constructively, which is incorrect. But there's also one other move. We'll come back to this move after I've explained one more thing. So we also need to do the panning. And the reason is the left channel, when we pan it this way, right now what it's taking is we have two channels that are left plus left side is what's on this one. And this is right plus right side. And the right side we know because we flipped it. So this makes the side information different where the mids are the same. So if you leave it like this and you leave it panned in the center, even if your dot doesn't do the panning right, it's going to add the left plus the left side and the right plus the right side in both channels. And you'll just get a big mono thing again. It won't be the correct signal. But if we go ahead and pull it to the left and to the right, it's going to, in my case, just take one of them. So the left will now just be the left plus the left side, and the right will now just be the right plus the right side. But if your DAW sums them, it won't matter because it's summing the same thing twice. So it'll still be the left plus the left side and the right plus the right side. So it doesn't matter if your DAW doesn't pan the correct way. You'll get back your original signal. So now if we solo the side information, we can see it's correctly deconstructively interfering. If we don't do this flip, like I was saying earlier, it appears as a mono thing. So if we were to play this back, we'll just have one huge mono thing. Which is why, again, you have to do the flip. So if you didn't catch that the first time, you could go back a couple minutes and rewatch the explanation and let me know if there's anything I could do or say to make it even more clear. But that is how you would set up left-right encoding yourself. And as you see, in this case, we flip the right. So we flip the right. We flip it again before we send out right. And it might be a bit confusing because this says left. And then we go into a gainer and then it comes out right. But remember, this is mono information here. It's the stereo information, but it's in a mono discrete file, which brings us back to what I said earlier. If you get that, this should make perfect sense. So we're not flipping the left channel. We're flipping the side information. So the side that goes to the left will be the side left. And then we flip it to make it so that we go back to side right. Hopefully you catch that. And that's how you set it up. So pretty simple matrix if you understand the general idea. The most confusing parts are how the panning works, the multiple ways we talk about mono, and finding a plugin that will allow you to create two left channels. So again, you could use Stereo X or you could use the MUtility. Just slap this on there. Use that encoding scheme I talked about where you go to left. And then to flip the channels, you can just use the invert left and right for when you need to do the inversion. So you could replace gainers in Stereo X with MUtilities and it would work the same. So that's that. If you have any questions about this, let me know. A little more technical of a video. I really wanted to do one that had a really clear explanation and most importantly that I did it with you because it can just be so hard to figure out on your own. I could do this in other DAWs if you're interested, if I have the DAW. If I don't have the DAW, then I can't really help you. But that's that. Subscribe and have a blessed day.